October 29th, 2015. That's when all of this started. Hi, my name's Prince, and whether you know me or not, welcome to my channel. Just over a week ago, I celebrated the 10-year anniversary of my first ever video on my first full YouTube channel. And during that whopping 8-hour live stream, we watched a lot of my old videos and played a bunch of stuff that I've played during the last decade. Now, I always planned to do a video celebrating this anniversary as well, and originally it was just gonna be a video reacting to a bunch of old stuff that I made, but having done that for most of the stream that we did on the day, I thought that for the actual video, I would do something a little bit different. And so, for this, my 1000th video on this channel, I'm going to tell you all a story. The story of me. The story of the last 10 years of my life that I have spent on this platform. Everything I've learned, everything I've been through, and everything I've done. If this happens to be the first video that you've seen by me, then do consider going and joining the Casual Discord, provided you are of the age of 16, as then you'll be automatically notified whenever I upload or do a live stream, as I guarantee you there is something on my channel that you will find interesting. So everyone, let's head back to 2015, and I'll tell you how this all began.
Hello, everyone! Now, I know what you're thinking. Who the heck is this talking to me?
My journey onto YouTube began on the 29th of October 2015, when I was just 13 years old, which honestly at this point feels like an entire lifetime ago, and I guess it kinda was. Now, for full disclosure, the video that you're seeing right now wasn't actually my first ever video. My first ever video was a stop-motion Lego Iron Man 3 video that lasted a couple of seconds that I bullied my mother into helping me upload sometime long before this. That video, as well as the account that I uploaded it on, has since been lost to time, but maybe one day I'll find it again. But while that was just a fun little video that I wanted to stick on YouTube, this video right here was the first step I took to becoming a YouTuber. It was uploaded onto a channel called Players Adventures, which was something that I'd actually planned to do for a very long time. Growing up watching YouTubers as a kid, I always dreamed of becoming one myself, and the concept of doing Players Adventures was something that I would discuss daily with my friends at school. And while we originally planned for it to be an Xbox 360 channel where I played Minecraft and all other manner of games with my friends, in October of 2015, I finally discovered a screen recorder, and this episode of Spore was the first video I ever made as a YouTuber. Now, as you can see, the quality was not great. In fact, the quality was not even good. Now, you may think this is because at the time I had the most potato PC that you could possibly imagine, but it was actually because during the early days of Players Adventures, I was using a absolutely god-awful screen recorder called Microsoft Expression. Not only could you not record in an exportable format, like, you know how you can record straight to MP4 with most screen recorders? Yeah, you couldn't do that with Microsoft Expression. What it did instead was record it in this weird Microsoft Expression format that you then had to wait like an hour for it to export into an MP4. But that wasn't even the worst thing. The worst thing was that the free version, which I obviously had, was locked at this horrible standard definition 3 frames per second garbage quality. The free version was designed to record in such shit quality, and you had to buy the full version to record not at 3 frames per second. And that unfortunately meant that the first era of my career on YouTube was the 3 frames per second era. This was the very start of my career on YouTube. No editing software, no fancy thumbnails, just me and a shitty screen recorder making videos. I recorded a lot of different stuff during those days, from Spore and Happy Wheels to Minecraft and even some top 5s on Microsoft PowerPoint. I was 13, alright, but the main thing that I was doing during that time was my Gmod ripoff series. Those of you who know me know that I've always been a storyteller, and considering back then I was 13 and completely ignorant of the concept of copyright, the latter part of the 3 frames era was basically me making my own version of whatever series I happened to be into at the time. This included Gmod Doctor Who, Portal 3, The Journey of Ordis, Dino Hunters, which was my ripoff of Primeval, and unsurprisingly, my own variation of COD Zombies. Now, while some of these definitely did have a decent story to them, I won't lie and say that they were good, because they were definitely very cringeworthy, especially considering I was the only voice actor, meaning that I voiced every character. But I was doing the best with what I'd got, and I was having a lot of fun doing it, so it was all fun and games. And I've said this before, people who start off on YouTube just having fun actually have a lot more of a chance at becoming real YouTubers because they have the passion. If you start on YouTube intending to be a YouTuber and make money from it, you're probably not going to do that well. Now, due to the fact that this was when I was 13 and still in school, I'm sure it'll come as no surprise that I endured a lot of mockery for my early videos. But again, back then, I really didn't care. I didn't care about views, I didn't care about what people were saying, because I was having fun. And I was living the dream that I'd always wanted to live, being a YouTuber and making videos. However, despite the fact that, looking back, it feels like it lasted a lot longer than it actually did, after 8 months of dealing with Microsoft Expression and getting my hands on an editing software, even if it was Microsoft Movie Maker, come on, we've all got to start somewhere, I finally bid farewell to Microsoft Expression and got my hands on an Elgato HD60, and thus began the Xbox 360 era. Gone were the days of 3 frames per second, and I was able to record on Xbox 360 at 30 FPS at standard definition, because I still had a potato PC. However, this was, of course, a huge leap in my capabilities, and during the summer of 2016, I was uploading up to 2 or 3 videos a day, recording COD Zombies, Minecraft, Skyrim, Fable 2, and even the Advanced Warfare campaign. Many of you know that I'm a tremendous fan of Skyrim, and I'm going to be doing another modded series at some point in the future. But what many of you may not know is that before Hunter the Wood Elf, there was Celine the Khajiit. And again, although the views didn't necessarily increase, Player's Adventures had finally become what I'd wanted it to from the start, and I was having a blast. And you guys want to know a really wholesome bit of trivia? The Elgato HD60 that I got for Player's Adventures is the same one that I am using to this day to record and stream from my PS5. It's the same one, and I still have it almost 10 years later, and it's still working. They haven't made that model for years, but it's still working, and it has served me well for nearly a decade. So yeah, that's a little wholesome bit of trivia there. Eventually though, and to be honest, I still don't know why it took me this long, I hooked up my Elgato to my Xbox One, and thus began the Xbox One era, beginning with my first ever playthrough of Fallout 4, one of the first games ever that I saved specifically to do a playthrough on YouTube. Now, for a while, I stuck to the regular gameplay videos, playing Ark, Minecraft Story Mode, the first of my 3 different seasons of Subnautica, none of which I actually finished, and even my first ever ever attempt at revelations on Black Ops 3, as this was back in the day when BO3 Zombies was still being released. But then, on the 19th of November 2016, I decided to take a step back into the humble origins of players' adventures during the 3 frames era, and I started making cinematic stuff again. Beginning with my Zombie Apocalypse series, but transitioning into... well, I wouldn't call it a rip-off, I'd say something heavily inspired by Dan TDM's custom-modded adventures with Dr. Trioris, a series in which I went on adventures with my friend, Joe the Villager. From creating a command block and saving Christmas from the diabolical Dirt Man, to going on a space adventure and going on a Christmas quest to find a mythical sword and slay a snow wither, me and Joe had some pretty cool adventures. I even returned to my roots with another continuation ripoff with Portal Stories Carl, a Minecraft Portal story series where a test subject ended up flung into the future, much like Mel, and had to save Aperture from an erupting volcano. Or at least it would have done if I'd made more than 2 episodes. It was also around that time that I started using intros properly. I came across a website that I think a few of you may be familiar with due to their quite recognizable watermark sound effect, renderforest.com, where I made 2 heavily watermarked intros. Like, clearly one watermark wasn't enough for them, so they had to do 2. One for my main videos, and then I made one exclusively for my Zombie Apocalypse series. Sure, they were technically watermarked 3 times over, but it still felt nice to have an intro. And obviously this was back in like 2016, so we were still in the sort of era where flashy gaming intros were still a thing. But in the final months of Players' Adventures, I was making some pretty decent stuff, I'd say. Playing everything from Skyrim and Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, which was a fresh release at the time, to The Walking Dead and Little Nightmares, including the Little Nightmares DLCs, which I played for the first time on Players' Adventures. It was also around that time that I got a brand new, non-watermarked intro, which, if I recall correctly, was made by the same good friend of mine who made the original logo and channel art for this channel, as well as most of the channel art for the channel that came after Players' Adventures that I'll talk about in a second. Not to mention, at some point during this era of Players' Adventures, I got my hands on both HitFilm Express and Pixlr Photo Editor, the editing software and photo editing app that I've used throughout this entire channel's history. But the sort of sad thing is, there wasn't really ever an end to Players' Adventures. One day I just sort of stopped uploading and never went back to it, which is actually kind of sad, because after everything I did on that channel, I really don't think it deserves to just be left in the dust, to rot on YouTube and slip away into the darkness. And the experience I gained on Players' Adventures is what made me the YouTuber I am today. It was the humble beginnings of my journey onto YouTube, and I think as a celebration of the 10-year anniversary of Players' Adventures, at some point I might actually make a short little video just saying goodbye to it and upload it to Players' Adventures as like the final video of it, because Players' Adventures doesn't deserve to be forgotten. It deserves to be remembered. So if you feel so inclined, go and check out some of my old videos on that channel, because while they're absolutely not up to the same quality as the stuff I do now, I definitely did make a lot of half-decent stuff on there. Not to mention, you'll be able to see my first time reactions to certain stuff from back in the day, like the Little Nightmares DLCs, the latter half of Story Mode Season 1, and a little bit of Story Mode Season 2. And just as a little plug, I will actually be streaming all 3 Little Nightmares games at some point very soon, so make sure to go join the Discord if you don't want to miss that. Now, why I actually stopped uploading, I'll explain in a second, but I'm gonna take a step back for a second, considering this is a video talking about my entire history on YouTube, and I'm gonna talk about Gmod Productions. Now, this was a channel that I worked on for less than a year, but basically, this was I don't really know how to describe it, a spiritual successor to some of the early stuff I was doing on Players Adventures. Basically, during the last couple of months of Players Adventures, I managed to find a better free screen recorder, and no, it wasn't OBS. I'm pretty sure I didn't discover OBS until this channel. But no, this was XSplit Broadcaster. It was pretty good, a little difficult to operate sometimes, but good enough. Although I believe this was still before I discovered HitFilm Express, so I was still using Movie Maker. I used Movie Maker for a very long time. I just want to put that out there. I'm pretty sure the discovery of HitFilm came like at the very end of Players Adventures. But on this channel, I uploaded 2 episodes of 2 different series, Gmod Prehistoric Park and Gmod Primeval, as in 1 episode of each, both of which are now privated. But if you guys want to go watch them, then maybe I'll put them as unlisted, and I'll put them in the casual Discord for you all to watch. But back to Players Adventures. Why did I stop? Well, when I tell you when I stopped, some of you may be able to figure out why I stopped. It was during 2018, the year when I had a revelation that would change the trajectory of not just my career on YouTube, but my entire life. And that was, of course, the revelation about Arthur. The revelation that led to the birth of the Casual Prince. Now, for those of you unaware, the full story of my technically 3rd channel, the Casual Prince, which was a channel completely focused around the Arthur and the Minimoys franchise, and was my first foray into obscure franchises on YouTube, can be told in this video. So I'm not going to go too in depth about this channel, because I'd literally be repeating myself, but I will talk about it a decent bit. Basically, I discovered that one of my childhood favorite franchises had a lot more to it than I thought it did, and back in 2018 that caused me to become completely obsessed with it and create an entire channel dedicated to it. Now, I didn't originally intend for it to be an Arthur channel. Starting off, it was really just meant to be like a personal channel for uploading random shit, but pretty quickly it became completely focused around Arthur. Now, starting off, I didn't really do much actual content for this channel, because even though at this point I was completely obscured by my inspiration for Arthur, I was still making videos on Players Adventures until the end of 2018. So for a while, the only content on the Casual Prince was edits, rescores, and AMVs, in a period of time that I refer to as the edits era. But gradually, I started making my presence known on that channel, and compared to Players Adventures, which during the 3 years that I ran it never crossed 100 subscribers, the Casual Prince started growing comparatively quite fast. And as more and more people joined my little Arthur community, I began making actual content for the channel, including Q&As, reactions, and even read-throughs of the books, in the short but awesome length of time that I refer to as the prime days of the Casual Prince. And I cannot believe that I didn't mention this in the initial recording. I'm recording this after the fact, but it was during this era that I actually did my first ever face reveal. For my 200 subscriber special, the Casual Prince showed his face to the world for the very first time. And nowadays, you guys are forced to look at my ugly face every single video, so yeah, that's where it all started. And during the end of this era, on August the 1st of 2020, I hosted what I think was actually my first ever live stream, which was the beginning of a series that I do every 10th moon, which for those of you who don't know is a big event in the Arthur universe, where I hosted what was basically a roleplay stream for Arthur fans, similar in a way to a D&D campaign, where I would host, narrate, and play myself in an adventure set in the Minimoy world. And despite the fact that I've long since left that channel for reasons that are a bit too complicated to explain here, every 10th moon I actually do still do those live streams. I also film some IRL stuff to go along with them, and if you've ever thought about going off into nature in the middle of the night and filming by yourself, don't do it, because it's terrifying. I know as a YouTuber I'm sort of meant to be like a role model for all of you, but don't do that. Trust me, I do it because I'm completely insane. Now again, gradually I began to upload less and less on the Arthur channel for reasons that again were explained in that other video and I will also explain in a second. However, during 2022, there was what I'd say would be the Arthur channel's last hurrah with the announcement and release of Arthur Malediction, a brand new Arthur horror film, which didn't turn out to be anything like what we'd hoped it would be. But for just under a month, for the first time ever, as an Arthur YouTuber, I actually had something new to talk about. And it was a pretty exciting time. But again, for reasons that I've talked about before, I did eventually leave the Arthur channel. But I definitely had fun in the days where it was my main channel. Now, before we move on and talk about one of the main reasons why I left the Arthur channel, we're actually gonna take a step back to November of 2019 and talk once again about Gmod Productions, which at that time I rebranded as Casual Productions. Now, while I didn't make any actual content on this channel during this time, during November of 2019, I used it as a platform for uploading English clips from Speckles the Tarbosaurus 2. Little bit of context here, Speckles the Tarbosaurus was a docudrama about a Tarbosaurus named Speckles and his dramatic and hardship-filled life. I absolutely loved it as a kid, and a few years back I discovered that it was gonna get a sequel. Considering that they are Korean movies, there was no guarantee that it was actually gonna get an English translation for the sequel, but after it released in Korea, one day online I found an English version, and I decided to upload them onto Casual Productions, considering originally when it was announced it wasn't even clear whether it was gonna get an English version, and when I found the English version online, I knew that there'd be a lot of people that would want to see it. Now, I was not expecting the reception that these clips were gonna get. Sure, I expected a decent few dinosaur fans would enjoy seeing them, but what I was not expecting was for them to get millions of views, with one of them, for some fucking reason, I still don't know why this one did so much better than all the others, gaining in the 5 or so years that it's been up, 27 million views. That is genuine madness. Now, around that time, a lot of people asked me why I didn't just start uploading videos on that channel. A channel that currently has 134,000 subscribers. And the simple reason is that would very heavily be cheating. I've wanted to be a YouTuber since I was a kid, but uploading the Speckles clips wasn't anything special. Literally anyone could have done that, and in fact, after I started doing it, a lot of other people actually did. My point being that I've done nothing to earn the 134,000 subscribers that Casual Productions it currently has, because the content that I uploaded on that channel that got millions of views isn't mine. And if I'm gonna be a YouTuber, I want to say that I have earned every subscriber that I have gotten, and that really wouldn't be the case if I cheated and used the popularity of Speckles for my own gains. Besides, later on I ended up making content on Speckles in a more honorable way, but we'll get to that later. So having said that, let's move back over for a second. I mentioned before that I stopped uploading on the Casual Prince for some reasons that I'd already explained on that other video, not to mention having less time because of moving away from home and going to university, but there was actually another reason. During the 2 years that I made content for the Casual Prince, I continued to develop my editing and thumbnail making skills, finally learning what it means to make a good YouTube video. And so, having built up a decent community with the Arthur channel, I decided to give a gaming channel another go. And in August of 2019, I started CasualPrince8, named after my original auto-generated Xbox 360 username that I received over 10 years ago, and the channel you are watching today. And here's a little something special for all of you, because this is something that has never seen the light of day before, but if there was ever going to be a video where I was going to show this off, it would probably be this one. This right here was the original intro I was going to use for this channel. I believe this was also made by the same friend of mine who made the Player's Adventures intros and the original channel art, but for whatever reason I just never ended up using it, mainly because I'd sort of figured out that the era of the flashy gaming intro was over. The music that it has makes it a lot better, but I don't want to play it here just in case it gets me copyrighted. I'll put the full version in the Casual Discord for you guys to have a look at, but there's a little bit of unreleased stuff that never saw the light of day. Now, starting off, the videos I was making on this channel actually came quite rarely, as in like twice a month, rarely, which is funny considering that's kind of the upload schedule I've had recently. But this was mainly due to the fact that back in the day, the early videos of this channel were very heavily edited. And I don't mean the sort of edits that I do for videos nowadays, where it's just like constant jump cuts, because that's sort of just the norm for YouTube videos nowadays. I mean that I was inserting edits and memes and overlay text, and the videos just took quite a while to make. Now again, I didn't start this channel anticipating that it would become what it is today, and I certainly didn't start it anticipating to make it a job. To tell the absolute truth, I started it because I wanted to archive my reaction to certain video games and to make some memories with my friends the same way I was doing with Player's Adventures. So funnily enough, all of the obscure franchises that you guys know me for, the coverage of those didn't start for ages. In fact, for the first 2 years of the channel, it was solely a gaming channel. And I was playing everything from Sea of Thieves to The Isle to Little Nightmares and, of course, Skyrim Season 0, where Hunter the Wood Elf was born. Not to mention that I did the face reveal for this channel just under a year after I'd started. I did it really early on this channel, and there wasn't really much point to me doing a face reveal because due to my potato PC, I couldn't really have my face in a lot of the videos that I made. Now, before we move on and talk about a few of the other things I was doing on the channel during this time, it's probably a good idea to talk about what was probably my biggest mistake on this channel. Now, the birth of CasualPrince8 was kickstarted with me buying a new PC. It still wasn't actually really a good PC, but it was strong enough for me to record in HD on console. However, streaming in HD, which you guys know me to be fully capable of nowadays, was still, unfortunately, at that point, beyond my capabilities. So despite the fact that I could only stream in standard def, and I hadn't figured out OBS yet, and I was streaming solely from the Elgato software, and the fact that I had less than 1,000 subscribers, I was somehow delusional enough in early 2021 to start weekly live streams playing Xbox One Minecraft, and you guessed it, modded Skyrim, which was of course Season 1 of Hunter's Adventure. Now these streams lasted for 7 whole months, and I honestly thought it was less than that, but eventually I basically just stopped because, to put it simply, no one was coming to them, which was obviously pretty disheartening, but to be honest, I shouldn't have tried it in the first place. Like, I have 6,000 subscribers nowadays, and even nowadays in live streams, sometimes there aren't that many people, because the ratio of regular viewers slash subscribers to people that will regularly attend regular live streams is like 1,000 to 1, so it's not exactly surprising. It was also around that time, and a bit earlier, that I sort of stopped doing the mega edit videos, and as I gradually became more and more into making videos for this channel, I started focusing on quantity, not over quality, but I no longer spent like 2 weeks on every video, basically. Sounds familiar right now, I know I've been really bad recently. And this time was marked by series like my Telltale's The Walking Dead playthrough, which is still ongoing, and my playthrough of Doki Doki Literature Club. Who remembers that one? I do. Shut up, not yet. Now, moving on, before we get to the obscurities, we've got one final big thing to talk about. Something that I think a lot of you probably don't know about from the channel's history, and that was the Casual SMP. The Casual SMP was probably one of the most ambitious things I ever did back in the early days of the channel, or the early years, I guess. But this was back in July of 2021, where the Dream SMP was at the height of its popularity. And I can't lie, I was an avid viewer, and combined with the fact that I'd actually started watching Game of Thrones around that time, the combination of the two inspired me to invite 8 of my friends to join a faction-based server. Now, unfortunately, the Casual SMP never reached the points that I wanted it to. It was never really a very popular series, but I had a lot planned for it that just didn't end up panning out. Mostly because a lot of people weren't really online very often and didn't get as invested in it as I wanted them to, and mainly because I sort of gave them the wrong impression of what I wanted the server to be, in that I wanted it to be a server where we banded together to make a sort of Game of Thrones style story within the server, but people sort of got very caught up on the factions and being very untrustworthy of one another. But I had a lot of stuff planned, a lot of lore, a lot of cool shit that just didn't end up happening, unfortunately. But I probably will make a video talking about all of the stuff that I originally had planned at some point. And that's not to say some cool shit didn't happen while it was ongoing. We had a mystery where my friend Owen's horse had been killed, and me and him went on an investigation throughout the world trying to find out what happened, leading to some very peculiar discoveries, and there were a lot of funny moments along the way as well. So I definitely recommend going and checking out the Casual SMP as a series. It's still all on my channel, and I've also still got the world, so I'll probably make a video showcasing the world as well. But moving on, what I'm about to talk about now is something that not only wasn't on the list, but wasn't even in my head to talk about. And the only reason I've just remembered to talk about this is because I just saw the logos of them in my pictures folder when I was just about to make the thumbnail for this fucking video. And that is the fact that around December of 2021, again, I'd completely forgotten about this, for literally like 2 weeks, I actually streamed on Twitch. Twitch. It didn't go very well because Twitch is incredibly difficult to gain an audience on, and people from YouTube generally don't like to move over to Twitch. But for literally like 2 weeks, I streamed Jurassic World Evolution 2 and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, and they were still standard def as well, so I was really stacking the odds against myself on this one. But I think the reason that I tried it was just because they were both new games at the time. I also started 2 other channels called Casual Clips and Casual VODs, because this was before the whole live category showed up on channels where you can view live streams. But Casual Clips, as the name suggests, was literally just a clips channel that I uploaded a few bits and bobs on. I've kind of been meaning to upload more clips on there, but I sort of just haven't had the time. And to be honest, it would probably be better to just put any clips I put together on the main channel, because at least then I can monetize them. But honestly, I'd completely forgotten about all of this just because it was such a short and insignificant part of my journey. But it's a part of my journey nonetheless. But moving on, we come to 2022. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the CasualPrince8 you know and love really began. Because during the channel's history thus far, I had already dipped my toe into obscure franchises, mainly with a few videos on Primeval, and of course, the video that is still, to this day, more than 5 years later, the top viewed video on my channel, the original Max Steel video. But on April 13th of 2022, I published the first of my full face cam discussion videos, discussing who Spyro's father was in The Legend of Spyro. And while I was still mainly making gameplay videos, this video was followed by many more, and when 2023 rolled around, this was when the channel really started shifting into what you guys know it as today. I kicked off the year with a brand new high quality mic that I'm using right now, and the first of my Dinotopia rewatch series that I've actually given new thumbnails for recently and will be returning to in early 2026. Hopefully. Then in February, having gotten a new PC in 2022, the live streams returned better than ever. I started off with just the Jedi games and Hogwarts Legacy, but as you guys know, I quickly spiraled into doing 3 or 4 streams a week, and nowadays I'm streaming all sorts of stuff and going on all sorts of random and awesome adventures. And again, if you don't want to miss any of those, then go down into the description down below and join the Casual Discord, provided that you are at least 16. Now, I wasn't gonna mention this as part of this video originally, but I thought I'd give it a mention mainly because I really want you guys to be aware of it. You've heard me mention Skyrim and Hunter several times during this video. Hunter is the character that I created in one of my earliest series on this channel, a modded Skyrim video series that I now refer to as Hunter's Adventure Season 0. Season 1 of Hunter's Adventure was one of my standard definition stream series, and Season 2 was one of the earliest series I did when I resumed live streaming. Now, the reason that I'm telling you guys all of this is because I have always adored modded Skyrim. In fact, I think modded Skyrim specifically might be my favorite game out of anything I've ever played ever. Purely because it is such a blank canvas for storytelling. And out of any series I've ever done on my channel, my modded Skyrim series is probably the one series that I really want to have a following to it. I want people to be really into the series. I want people to watch this series as if they're watching a show, getting connected to the characters, coming up with headcanons on what they think about one another. And for those of you who weren't there when Season 1 and 2 were being broadcast on my channel, we had some pretty cool moments. During Season 1, due to a unforeseen glitch with my Xbox that I had to work around, I improvised the plotline where, after killing Alduin and returning from the afterlife, Hunter had come back to a different universe, where the house where his followers had been headquartered no longer existed, and some of his followers even looked different, as though they were meant to be alternate universe versions of the followers that we'd gotten. And in Season 2, we met a random NPC called Barknar, who had no relevance to literally anything in Skyrim, but due to a funny animation glitch, we hired him and called him the Breadman. And not only did he somehow break into the Thalmor embassy to help Hunter in the mighty battle of Apocrypha against Hermaeus Mora, where Hunter summoned all of his followers to help him, Barknar ended up dying in the battle, and it was quite an emotional moment. My point is that my Skyrim series are more than just gameplay streams. I do my best to try and make them a story that all of you can get invested in, which is actually why I ended Season 1 and Season 2, because not enough people were turning up, and I really wanted people to get invested in it. So Season 3 is gonna happen at some point, but I want to wait until I'm certain that it's gonna be able to have the audience that I want it to. So if an awesome modded Skyrim series with a bunch of unique characters, and maybe even some little improvised story elements to it, sounds like something that you might enjoy, make sure to subscribe and go join the Discord, because that is the one that I want to do well. And you're gonna want to be part of it, because trust me, you will never find a Skyrim series quite like mine. But the live streams didn't become a major thing like they are now for a little while, because there were a few things that came before that, such as the arrival of what is probably the most popular obscure franchise I've ever covered on this channel. And that, of course, was Dinosaur King, which was one of the first obscure franchises that I sort of started covering a lot. Like, more than just one-off videos like I'd done for Max Steel. Although, again, it wasn't the first franchise I'd covered in this way. The Legend of Spyro definitely takes that title. I've recorded this video over multiple days, so at this point, I don't even remember what I've said and what I haven't. Now, funnily enough, I didn't really start making regular Dinosaur King discussion videos until the end of 2023, but by then, a lot of other stuff had happened. And one of the main events happened on June 2nd of 2023, and that was freedom. June 2nd of 2023 marked the end of my time at university, meaning that I was finally free to pursue my dream of becoming a YouTuber. Now, the next thing I actually didn't have on my list of things to talk about, but it was a big deal at the time, so I thought I might as well mention it. Despite the fact that for the next couple of months I was still putting out regular smaller videos like gameplays and reactions, most of June, July, and August was spent on one of the biggest videos I've ever made, the Speckles the Tarbosaurus Complete Timeline. This was a colossal undertaking by myself, creating an hour-and-a-half long video detailing every event in the Speckles universe. Definitely a weird thing to make a timeline on, but you guys know me, I'm a weird guy. And today, it's the 4th most popular video I've ever made on the channel, and I'm still pretty damn proud of it, to be honest. Moving on, in late September of 2023, we had the return of the first obscure franchise I ever covered on the channel, with the video that kickstarted my regular coverage of it, Max Steel, with my reaction to Max Steel Season 5, turbocharged, which remains to this day one of the funniest videos I've ever made. Again, if you haven't seen it, even if you don't care about Max Steel, go check it out because it is absolutely fucking hilarious.
Since when can I punch through solid rock with my bare hands?
Since the fucking first episode! Now, as 2023 came to an end with my coverage of Dinosaur King returning, as well as a brief look into the Gone series, we moved into 2024, which I believe was the time when I began fully transitioning into obscure franchises being the main thing that I did on the channel. As I've explained before, this channel was originally meant to be a gaming channel, but over the years I gradually discovered that not only was there very much a demand for content surrounding all of these different obscure franchises, but that I actually really enjoyed making content on all of them, and I enjoyed the responsibility of being the only one that was. It made me feel special, and it gave the channel more of a purpose than it possibly could have had just being a gaming channel. Now, unfortunately, around this time, I was sort of struggling a little bit. I remember I was trying a lot of different things that didn't really end up working, a lot of videos that I hoped would do well and just didn't, but then on April 6th of 2024, I uploaded my first discussion video on Call of Duty Zombies, one of the first franchises I'd covered on YouTube that really wasn't that obscure, but I was still doing stuff that no one else was really doing, because no one's really doing the sort of discussion videos that I do on COD Zombies. But the first video I uploaded, going over all of the different eye colors of the zombies, blew every other video I'd ever made out of the fucking water. Because while it's not my most popular video, out of everything I've ever made, it's only number 6 on the leaderboard. This video, I'd say, was my first ever viral video. Because while, again, a lot of my other videos gained more views than this one, those other videos gained those views over time. With the original Max Steel video, my most popular video ever, only reaching 1,000 views within just under a month. Whereas this video got 15,000 views in its first week and got up to around 40,000 before it finally plateaued. But needless to say, that gave me a bit of a confidence boost. But if you thought that was viral, later on in 2024, luck smiled upon me again. And once again, it was during a time that I was struggling. I was doing a lot of Black Ops 6 stuff at the time, which I'm sure you all remember that era of the channel. I really hoped all of that stuff would do well, and it really didn't end up doing well. And neither did a few other things I was trying at the time. But then, on September 7th, of 2024, I uploaded my reaction to Block by Block, the Minecraft Story Mode remake, and thanks to a cheeky bit of clickbaiting, which wasn't entirely untrue, that video got 100,000 views in less than a month, and rose to become my second most popular video ever, sitting comfortably today at 154,000 views. And needless to say, that gave me a confidence boost. And all things considered, the rest of 2024 went relatively well. I got back into Max Steel, uploaded my first Minecraft Story Mode discussion video, and even one other thing that I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, of course, moving into 2025, we're approaching the end of the 10 years we're celebrating in this video. And I'll be honest, 2025 hasn't been that good of a year for the channel, and that's entirely on me. But we have had a few notable things happen, and starting off, I think this should definitely get a mention. At the very beginning of 2025, it was new for this year, game night. Obviously, since 2023, the live streams have continued, but in 2024, I sort of realized that we're sort of playing the same couple of games on stream for like months at a time. So considering that at this point, I'd basically completely transitioned the channel into being entirely focused around obscure franchises, apart from the odd gaming video here and there, and that meant there was a huge backlog of games that I'd always wanted to do one-off videos for, but don't have the time anymore. I started up a live series that is still ongoing on Saturdays, where every Saturday I would play a random game from my collection, and those streams have been some of the most enjoyable I've ever had. And considering that for most of the year I've been streaming Black Ops 6 on Fridays, these streams also served as some very much needed therapy. Now, moving on, I mentioned that near the end of 2024, something happened that I would talk about a bit later. And that's mainly because what that thing was didn't actually really happen until February 22nd of 2025. And that was my return to Arthur and the Minimoys. Again, I won't go into the specifics because it's far too much for me to explain here. And again, like I've mentioned multiple times in this video, if you want to learn all about that, then you can go and watch that other video. I'll probably leave it in the description along with a bunch of other links to players' adventures and a bunch of videos that are relevant to this video. But basically, for the longest time, I had promised my Arthur community that one day I would return to making Arthur content. Originally, I was gonna go back to making content on the Casual Prince, but considering that I was now doing obscure franchises of every variety on this channel, I didn't really see the point of isolating Arthur from all of the other franchises I cover on this channel. So while I announced this on October 19th of 2024, my first proper return to making Arthur content was actually the video that I've been telling you about, telling you the story of what happened with the Arthur channel and everything that transpired after that on February 22nd of 2025. And in a way, it was actually a pretty similar video to this video, where I basically just looked back and told the story of the Arthur channel. And while I haven't made many Arthur videos since then, because honestly Arthur doesn't do as well as many of the other franchises I cover, and obviously that shouldn't be a deciding factor on what I make, but at the end of the day, this is my job. I did make a pair of pretty cool discussion videos around the 10th moon this year, and making them was a lot of fun. And as we moved through the rest of 2025, I took a brief foray into Star Wars, reacting to the first episode of Kenobi, and talking about one of the greatest and most obscure Jedi in the entire franchise, Mavra Zane, and I definitely appreciate if you guys go and check out both those videos because they're pretty good. And I think the final, most recent thing I have to talk about is my return to Choices Stories You Play, a visual novel app that I did actually cover very briefly all the way back in 2021. But returning to it after all this time and having made a few videos on it, I really have missed it, and I'm happy to reintroduce it as one of the many things I cover on this channel. And in fact, there is actually one more thing. I mentioned earlier, obviously, that since the final months of Players' Adventures, I've been using the editing software HitFilm Express. I found it a very long time ago, obviously, and it was free and did basically everything you needed an editing software to do. But unfortunately, I discovered, actually quite recently, that the company that made HitFilm had been bought out, and the people that bought it out had absolutely no interest in continuing its development. So poor HitFilm had been abandoned by its creators, which meant that eventually it would get to the point where it would no longer work on operating systems as they continued to update. Now obviously this wasn't an immediate problem, but just in case anything went wrong immediately, and it just so happened to one day stop working just like that, I started looking into alternatives, and the best one by far was DaVinci Resolve. solve. And although it looked very intimidating at first, once you're experienced with one editing software, the skills are pretty easily transferable. And so, ever since the Max Steel video that I made on the Turbo Star, I've edited my videos in DaVinci Resolve, which is fantastic because it is definitely better than HitFilm. But I'll never forget HitFilm because it served me very well for many years. Not that it wasn't without its problems. And so, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, that brings us to today, late November of 2025. 10 years later. And that, so far, was my story. From my humble beginnings on Players Adventures to the semi-professional YouTuber you know and love today. The last 10 years of my life have been nothing short of insane. More than anything else in my life, YouTube has given me something to put my heart and soul into, and I have to thank every single one of you. Every single one of you who has even clicked on one of my videos in the last 10 years, because every single one of you, from those of you who have been loyal and supportive and have been the reason that I wake up and want to make videos, to those of you pathetic enough to mock my voice or anything about me and have given me the dedication to prove all of you wrong, because in one way or another, every single one of you has helped me on this journey. 10 years ago when I started Players Adventures, I could not even imagine the journey I was gonna go on, and that along the way I would end up resurrecting entire fandoms and being the one YouTuber on the platform to support all of these incredible franchises that I loved as a kid. And it has truly been one hell of a journey. I have learned so much from being a YouTuber. I've learned to believe in myself, and making all of the different types of content that I've made over the past decade, whether it's all of the incredible adventures that I've gone on during my gameplay videos or streams, or making content to remind all of you that your favorite franchises are not forgotten. Being a YouTuber has been an absolute joy for the past decade. Being a YouTuber has made me into a person that I didn't really think myself capable of being. So thank you to all of you who have helped me in any way over the past 10 years and supported me on this journey. And don't you worry, because this journey is far from over. Because it's taken me basically 10 years to get to the point where I am now, where I know how to make a thumbnail, how to edit efficiently and make a good and entertaining video, how to give videos titles that people are actually gonna click on, and really just how to be a YouTuber. So given after 10 years I finally know what I'm doing, let's go for 10 more! I will be honest, 2025 has not been the year that I hoped it would be, and like I mentioned earlier, that has been totally my fault. A lot of 2025 has sort of been me trying to get myself in gear again, and because of that, because of everything I've learned, I'm really hoping that 2026 is gonna be one hell of a year. One hell of a year to start off what will technically be my second decade on YouTube. I've got so much awesome content planned, from plenty more videos on all of the franchises that you guys love, as well as the few games that I still make videos on, like The Legend of Spyro and the Telltale games, as well as getting back to making content on other franchises that I've covered in the past, like Primeval, returning back to Dinotopia, and of course my live streams will continue as we continue to go on all sorts of random adventures. And of course 2025 isn't over yet, and I'm gonna do the best that I can to deliver you guys some quality content before the year's up. Although I'm sort of drawing a blank for what to do for Christmas videos this year. Let me know if you've got any ideas. But yeah, everyone, I really hope you did enjoy this nostalgic look back at my entire history on YouTube and everything I've done. Leave as many comments as you want about as many different things as you want, as a lot of comments helps push this video to the algorithm. Make sure to go check out Player's Adventures and check out some of the half-decent stuff that I was doing back in the day. And of course, if you're at least 16, then go join the Casual Discord in the description down below if you want to be automatically notified whenever I upload or go live. I'm sorry this video took so long to get out and that it stopped me from doing a bunch of live streams, but I thank you for your patience and I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, everyone, thanks a lot for watching and I will see you on another video or stream very, very soon. Goodbye, everyone.